Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply, and this is the Leather Element. If you've got a good question for us or a good idea for a Leather Element, drop it in the comment box below. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. A sharp tool makes all the difference in the world. So let's sharpen 6 commonly used tools in our shop. And in fact, the first 2, I get questions on these all the time. Let's see if I can be of help. Let's start with our edger because this is a tool that's got to be sharp. If it isn't, when we try to edge a piece of leather, first off, it's going to be hard to get that to edge, but it's going to drag, it's going to ripple, it may even tear the leather. But there's an easy way to sharpen this, and when we do, it is literally going to glide down the edge of our leather. So let's start right here. I've got some of our wax thread. This is our Ritza, the 1.2 millimeter, and I've got this just on a hook. And in fact, I have this on just about every cutting table in my shop. Right here, this is our white rouge. This is a sharpening compound. The white, to me, seems to be the best. Now, for us crafters, this is a good purchase. And the reason? I bought that, I don't know how many years ago, but it used to be about that long and about that big around. The point here is it's going to last, and we'll always have sharp tools in our shop. So let's start here with our thread. I'm just going to get some of our rouge on this. Okay, now with our tool, notice how our shank curves up right there at the end. I'm going to put my finger right there. That way I can feel it. I want this up when I drag this down my wax thread, and what I want to do is roll that. In fact, let's do this 12 passes. And 11 and 12, that should be sharp. Now, we don't want to reverse that. We don't want to push that simply because we're just going to cut right through our wax thread. And I'm embarrassed to say that I learned that one from experience. All right, let's see if we've got a good sharp blade here. I've got a piece of our 9 to 10 ounce latigo. Let's see how this edges. That's exactly what I'm looking for in an edger. Now, if we're going to bump up to heavier weights, like say we need a number 3 edger, this is simply plumb line, and we can get this at most any hardware store, but it's just a little bit thicker, but that will certainly hold our rouge and give us a nice edge on our number 3. In my opinion, the Oblong is one of the hardest tools in our shop to sharpen, and these have to be sharp. That's a lot of metal moving through our leather. But the bigger part is that when we're hitting a dull tool, first off, we run the risk of it bouncing on us. That's going to look terrible. But secondly, we're tearing up our mallet and our cutting surface. So 2 ways to go here, easy to do. Right here, I've got a pencil. I've sharpened the pencil, and then down on the end, I've used contact cement, just added some of the 220 sandpaper, and all I need to do now is I need to come in. Now on the inside of this tool, I'm more cleaning than sharpening. There we go. Okay, now let's come over to a strop. Now I tend to like to add our compound to the flesh side of the strop for the larger tools. To me it feels like I've just got more in there. We can always go with top grain though. So now let's drag this. Let's work around our corners. And there's 1 pass. Let's go a second. And we've got it. Okay, now for the larger tools or older tools that need some work, we've got a great little tool. This is our punch sharpening tool. Now this will get in. If we've got a nick on the inside, that metal is not going to come back into place. But what we can do is sharpen around that. That'll help the tool move through the leather. That nick shouldn't be such a problem. Okay? How about our round end and English punch? On our English punch and round end, not nearly as difficult, but we still have an inside edge. So, with our strop, let's add our compound right up to the edge of that. Right here, my cutting board hangs over my marble just a bit. So let's just go to the edge, and now we can run the inside of that blade down. And on this side, let's just flip. Do the same thing. We've got that. Okay, now let's come over to our strop and let's just strop the outside. And again, we've got 2 good sharp blades. That's going to make our work look good. One last while we're here, our chisels, again, we can simply strop these. And that's going to give us a good edge on those as well. When we go to chisel, that's going to go right through that leather. When we first get our groover, the blades typically are very sharp, but over time, these are going to start to dull. What's going to happen is plugs of leather will start to get caught in that tube. Well, the easy way to remove those, let's take a needle. Yeah, a little bit hard to see, but this is a fabric sewing needle, very small. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come through from the cutting side. That's the smaller hole. We can get that needle through there. There we go. Typically, that will push that little plug out. But to keep this sharp, I'm going to take my compound right up to the edge, good piece of 8 to 9 ounce. Typically, we're going to move this way, but to sharpen, let's go backwards across that groove. And as we do that, let's roll the tool a little bit left, a little bit right. Yeah, you can see as I drag that along, that's already starting to cut. Now, there'll be a little of the compound in here. This is our jasper. I'm going this route because we'll be able to see if we've got a good groove or not. Look at that. Very nice. That's what we're looking for. And the iconic tool for the craft, the round knife. Not necessarily my weapon of choice, but what I understand, you go round, you never go back. This is actually 3 tools. We can cut, we can skive, and we can edge with this. Now, before we sharpen this, one good point. I don't have a lot of confidence putting a good edge on a blade. Here's why. At Weaver, we've had a booth, one of the biggest knife shows on the planet. I've done demos and classes for the blacksmiths. I've been to leathercraft events. Where I'm going with this is that I've seen folks that will use 2 or 3 levels of sandpaper, a sanding wheel, and then 2 or 3 levels of compound. I just don't feel like I'm going to be able to pull that off. So therefore, I don't know if I'll ever have confidence putting an edge on a blade, but on a round knife, I'll do my best. I've got a piece of 8 to 9 ounce scrap, and I've added my compound to my flesh side. So what I'm going to do, let's stabilize this piece of leather by putting our hand back here and not up here. So now we're going to roll across. I can feel that edge bite just a little bit. Let's roll that across. I'm going to make 2 passes both sides. And I feel like I've got a good edge on that. Now, the poundo board is actually going to add a little resistance, but that knife cuts right through that 8 to 9 ounce easily. I think the corner knives are one of the best products we've ever brought in at Weaver. I use these on every project, and we've got 6 sizes, but again, imperative that we keep these sharp. Now, we've got a strop board, and it's a great tool. This is going to work for our larger edgers, and oddly enough, the 9mm fits perfectly on that. For the larger tools though, let's do the same thing we did with our English punch and round end. I've got a piece of 8 to 9 ounce. I've got my compound, but what I've done is with my number 2 edger, I'm going to edge across there, then add my compound. So we can lay this on the edge of our table, and now we can roll the inside of that blade across that, maybe 4, 5 times. Good. Now let's come back over to our strop. Got a pretty long taper there. So let's drag that easily. And there we are, maybe 3, maybe 4 passes. So now we've got a I can feel that. It's a very sharp tool. So when we punch for our round corners, we're going to get a very pretty, very clean punch every time and almost without effort. There's so many more blades we need to sharpen in our shop, but I feel like I'm running a bit long. We'll come back to those. But one more good point. There's a couple of tools in our shop. It's just easier to replace the blade as opposed to sharpening it. In fact, I've got 2 good examples. Our hand skiver and our wooden strap cutter. When we get these blades, these are sharp. And trying to strop these, we'll never get them that sharp. But a side note, if we've only got 1 blade left in our shop, we haven't re-upped yet, yeah, it happens. We can absolutely strop these and get them pretty sharp. But again, the cost over the irritation, simply not worth it. So like I said in the beginning, I hope this helps you keep a good sharp blade in your shop, because a sharp blade makes all the difference. Thanks for taking time to watch the Leather Element. Good luck with your projects.